All right, let me give you a few things to look for in the eighth chapter, which is written by Marcus Borg, and he is talking about the truth of Easter. So I want you to pick up on a couple of things. The centrality of Easter for him, it results in two specific themes. One is that Jesus lives, and the second is that Jesus is Lord. He does a good job of coming back to these themes throughout the entire chapter, and so in a sense, this is part of his thesis. You need to understand both of those two those two terms. Two things to remember about those: look and notice that they are in the present tense; they are not in the past tense. And then, secondly, related to that, remember that the post-Easter Jesus is an experiential reality. And so on pages like 130, 131, 132, he talks about what the difference between resuscitation and resurrection. And his argument is that Jesus was not resuscitated, like that he did not come back to his former existence, but rather Jesus came after that God raised Jesus from the dead, that there was this new existence, that Jesus is one that we can experience. Now, notice on 130 and 131, he talks about the irrelevance of a body. And so remember, for N.T. Wright, if we find Jesus's body sometime, that seems to imply that the resurrection never happened, and then therefore that Christianity is moderately invalid. But for Marcus Borg, it doesn't matter if we ever find the body of Jesus, because he focuses a little bit more on what some scholars call maybe a spiritual resurrection. So it doesn't really matter for Marcus Borg if there is a bodily resurrection or not, because his argument really focuses on the present tense of these two terms, that Jesus lives and that Jesus is Lord, that God raised Jesus from the dead, maybe not in a bodily form, but definitely in a spiritual form. And so, as I said, you need to be sure that you understand these two core themes. So on the bottom of 135, the top part of 136, he focuses a little bit more on what does it mean to call Jesus Lord. Remember, this is a phrase that the ancient Romans used, that Christians use today. So that to call somebody Lord is a title, and it has specific meanings. So pay attention to those. And then I really do enjoy how Marcus Borg concludes this chapter, especially by looking at this pattern. Remember, he focuses a lot on like the metaphorical truths that are found in the Gospels. And so he looks at this pattern of what happened on Good Friday and then what happened on Easter. For me, what stands out really here is the bottom of 137, the top part of 138, where he talks about this pattern of rejection. So like the domination system is what killed Jesus, and yet the resurrection is God's vindication of Jesus. In other words, he was killed, he was rejected by the domination system. But so in a sense, like that was God's, or the system's no to Jesus, but then the resurrection was God's yes to Jesus and to like the way in which he lived. And so the last couple of pages of this chapter, I think, are some of the best work that he does in this book. So be sure to understand the pattern that he establishes, the metaphorical, deeper meaning of the resurrection of Jesus.